A serious problem is growing between China and Australia. This problem is happening in a large area of the ocean called the Indo-Pacific. This part of the world is becoming very tense. Many ships from both countries are now in these waters. You can see many surveillance ships. These ships are designed to watch and gather information secretly. There are also powerful warships. These warships are taking part in big military exercises, showing their strength and training their forces. These actions are much more than just a show of power. China has a clear and long-term plan. This plan is for China to become the most powerful country in the Pacific Ocean. They want to control all the important sea routes and key areas. Both China and Australia are getting ready for what might happen in the future. It seems like a very important time. This story will help you understand this complex situation. We will explain how China's actions are slowly changing the future of the Pacific region. These changes are not fast, but they are very significant. China's military moves are reshaping how countries in this area behave. They are also changing how nations like Australia and its allies choose to respond. The future of trade, security, and power in the Pacific will look very different because of these ongoing events. This book will show the true reasons behind these quiet but powerful shifts and how they will affect many people and countries for many years to come. 2. The first ships. In the year 2017, China began its first steps into Australia's military areas. During important military exercises, a single Chinese surveillance ship appeared. It showed up like an uninvited guest, watching from the horizon. The ship positioned itself just outside Australia's territorial waters. It kept a respectful distance, carefully following international maritime laws. Australian and Allied military commanders saw the ship. They acknowledged its presence but continued with their training. At first, these early visits seemed harmless, even polite. However, these appearances were not simply casual sightseeing. The Chinese ship was equipped with many cameras and sensors, all pointed at the large military exercises. It was secretly recording every detail. Every radar sweep, every radio transmission, and every coordinated signal sent between Allied forces was collected. This vital information was then sent back to Beijing. There, it was analyzed and stored in China's quickly growing intelligence database. The ship was not just watching. It was gathering deep intelligence. It learned about specific communication patterns, understanding who talked to whom and when. It also found out which radio frequencies different military units preferred for various operations. Importantly, it revealed how 19 different militaries, each with their own communication systems, managed to work together effectively. This was a key part of China's long-term plan to gain a strategic advantage. By observing and recording, China could learn the tactics, response times, and potential weaknesses of Australia and its allies. This careful intelligence gathering was a significant step in preparation. It aimed to give China a clear understanding of how their opponents might act in any future situations. These first ships marked the quiet but firm beginning of a new strategy for China in the Indo-Pacific region. 3. A dangerous game. After 2022, the situation became more serious. Chinese surveillance ships began staying near Australia's secret military bases. A key base is Naval Communications Station Harold E. Holt in Australia's remote northwest. Its tall antennas send signals for United States and Royal Australian Navy submarines in the Pacific and Indian Oceans. When Chinese ships came close, Australia became concerned. In 2024, Chinese fighter jets fired flares near Australian aircraft in international waters, creating danger. In May 2024, Chinese jets flew very close to an MH-60 Romeo Seahawk helicopter in the Yellow Sea. They dropped flares within 1,000 feet. The helicopter was enforcing rules on North Korea. China called it spying. Australia said the action was unprofessional and unsafe. On February 11, 2025, this happened again. A Chinese J-16 fighter released flares just 100 feet in front of an Australian P-8 Poseidon aircraft. The Australian crew saw the pilot clearly. Things then escalated. In February 2025, China's Navy sent 3 warships to the Pacific: a destroyer, a frigate, and a supply ship. This was a big step. For 1 week, these warships sailed inside Australia's exclusive economic zone, EEZ, off its east coast. An EEZ is where a nation has special rights to ocean resources. The ships did not return home. Instead, they moved to the Tasman Sea near Sydney. There, they conducted unannounced military drills using live weapons. Australian authorities learned this when Chinese warships warned civilian aircraft to change paths. Commercial planes rerouted. New Zealand wished for more warning. Australia usually gives 12 to 24 hours for its own drills. Both nations understood China's actions did not technically break international law. The United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea allows military ships in another country's EEZ if they respect its interests. However, China uses different rules for its own waters. It says military activity in its EEZ is illegal if it threatens national security. This shows China uses different rules for itself and for others, creating a dangerous game. 4. Sailing around Australia. In February and March of 2025, something new happened. 3 Chinese warships sailed around Australia. This was the first time such a group had done this. The ships were a destroyer, a frigate, and a supply ship. After doing military exercises near Australia's east coast, the ships kept going. They sailed west, making a full circle around the entire Australian continent. For many weeks, they moved along Australia's long coastline. Sometimes they were close to important defense sites on the western coast. This sent a strong message, but the ships stayed within international law. When the ships finished their journey in early March, China showed a new level of military strength. This was not just a trip. It was a complete circle around Australia with combat-ready ships. They practiced drills, refueled, and watched for information. Chinese state media said this trip showed China's power. Officers on one ship said they were testing their readiness for real combat on long journeys. They said it was a practice for future events. For Australia, this journey made a new and clear reality. China's military ships were becoming a more common sight. They were not just visiting for special exercises anymore. China was showing it could keep its operations going for a long time across the region. By mid-2025, experts no longer asked if Chinese ships would come to Australia. They asked which ships, how many, and for how long. China wanted its presence to be normal. China had moved from being an occasional visitor to a permanent part of Australia's nearby waters. Each trip showed more of China's power. 5. China is watching. China sends its ships near Australia for a clear reason: to spy. These are not just normal warships. China uses special ships called Type 815A electronic surveillance vessels. These ships are like big floating spy centers. They are about 430 feet long and have many sensors all over them. These sensors help them listen and watch everything around them. During large military exercises, like Talisman Sabre, these Chinese ships are very busy. They listen to every radio message between Allied forces. They record all communications, even those sent through encrypted satellite links. This helps China understand exactly how different militaries talk to each other. They learn which units speak to whom and when. They also find out which radio channels different units use for specific operations. This detailed listening helps China map out command structures and see how 19 different nations work together. The surveillance ships also work to map radar systems. They learn how different radars cover areas and how they respond to various situations. They can track missile launches and collect important data from them, like telemetry. When Allied nations test electronic jamming systems, the Chinese crews listen closely. They analyze the frequencies used and see how these systems affect surrounding sensors. This type of information is called signals intelligence, or SIGINT, and it is extremely valuable in modern warfare. Knowing all this gives China a big advantage. It learns how Australia and its allies fight together. It understands their favorite tactics, how quickly they respond, and where their weaknesses might be. It is like watching an opponent play a game and taking notes on every move they make. This allows China to prepare for future situations. For example, if China knows how missile defenses react or how communication systems work in real time, they can plan their own operations to go around these defenses. China is not just collecting technical data. It is also watching how the entire system of allies responds when Chinese ships are present. This allows China to understand how to act, whether to increase or decrease tension. This careful and continuous spying is a key part of China's plan to gain power in the Indo-Pacific region. They are learning to rewrite the rules of the region without firing a single shot, using intelligence as their main weapon. This information is priceless in global politics. It helps China prepare for possible incidents and exploit any gaps in how allies work together before a real crisis starts. 6. Why Australia is important. Australia holds a very important place in global strategy. It is not just a country far away on a map. Think of it as one of the most valuable pieces on a big strategic chessboard. Australia's location helps it control key sea routes. These routes connect the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean. This position makes Australia a strong partner for Western countries. It is not simply land, it is strategic land. During a time called the Cold War, military leaders often described Australia as an unsinkable aircraft carrier. This idea is still true today. This is why the United States has put a lot of money into building bases and facilities across Australia. One very important place is Pine Gap. This is a secret joint intelligence center for the United States and Australia located near Alice Springs. Pine Gap acts as a spy base, a satellite control center, and an early warning system. It helps America and its allies track missile launches and gather signals from across Asia. In any military conflict, bases like Pine Gap make both nations much stronger. China clearly understands how important Australia is. That is why Chinese Navy warships and surveillance vessels are often seen near Australia. China aims to have a permanent presence there. This creates pressure on Western countries. China does not need to attack directly. Instead, it can slowly move its military forces closer, square by square. This makes other countries have to change their defenses. China also uses this approach to weaken alliances. The United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia are part of a major defense group called AUKUS. This group plans to share nuclear submarine technology and develop advanced military tools together. China's goal is not to fight AUKUS directly. It wants to create problems or differences within the alliance. By keeping its ships near Australia, China tests how strong and united these partners are. Political experts call this a wedge strategy. China watches for disagreements among the allies about how to react. It looks for times when the AUKUS partners do not seem to be on the same page. Other countries in the region, like Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines, are also watching China's actions. Japan and India pay close attention too. They observe not just what China does, but also how Australia and the West respond. China shows its power through its continuous presence. It sends a clear message. We are here. We can do this. We will keep doing this. This makes China's presence seem normal over time and shifts the strategic balance. 7. 3 roads to the future. The situation between Australia and China is like a slow game of chess. No one has fired shots yet, and no clear rules have been broken. But the game pieces are moving, and the future could go in different ways. We can think of three main paths. The first path is simple. Nothing big changes quickly. China keeps doing what it has been doing. Its ships keep showing up, watching, and gathering information. Over time, this presence becomes normal. At first, news about Chinese warships near Australia makes headlines, but slowly these stories become less exciting. Military officials mention the sightings briefly and then move on. Australia and its allies start to get used to it. They write new rules and practice how to act when Chinese surveillance ships are around. This is like the boiling frog story. If you put a frog in water and heat it slowly, the frog might not notice until it's too late. In this way, China could win a big strategic victory without fighting. The West's power at sea might slowly become weaker. China would get continuous data, not just small bits of information. Other countries in the region might also feel pressure to accept China's presence as normal. This makes it harder for others to take the lead. The second path is one where an accident happens. Chinese ships keep watching near Australia, but then something goes wrong. Maybe a Chinese ship sails too close to an Allied military exercise and crashes into another vessel. Perhaps a drone flies too near a warship and gets shot down. Or, during a military drill, a cyber attack might happen on Allied communications, and Australia, or the United States, blames China. Suddenly, the tension would rise sharply. Military leaders would use stronger language. Trade between countries would become difficult. This could lead to a new kind of Cold War. Countries would compete in areas like technology, such as who controls the best satellites, who builds better stealth drones, or who can protect their communications from hacking. This scenario might also cause competition for influence in other countries, like Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. The problems would go beyond just defense. Australia is strongly linked to China through trade. In a worsening situation, trade limits could affect supply chains, from Australian iron ore to Chinese electronics. Prices would go up, markets would react, and everyday people would feel these problems. It is a path no one wants, but history shows it can happen when powerful rivals are in close contact for too long. The third path offers a tense but stable balance. In this future, Australia and China find a way to live side by side, which experts call competitive coexistence. Both countries continue to operate in the region, but they create unwritten rules to avoid disaster. Maybe they agree in secret about how close surveillance ships can get to important military bases. Perhaps both sides share rules for when their ships meet, like who should communicate with whom and on what radio channel to prevent dangerous moves. This is similar to how rival companies like Apple and Samsung compete strongly but do not try to completely destroy each other. Competition helps new ideas grow, but crossing certain lines can lead to legal problems that neither side wants. So both push the limits very carefully. In the Indo-Pacific, competitive coexistence could mean Australia and the United States improve their security systems to reduce spying risks. They might find new ways to encrypt communications during exercises or use advanced camouflage to avoid radar. China, in turn, would improve its surveillance methods but stop short of causing a direct fight. Other countries like Japan, India, and members of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, could create new ways to manage these tensions. Regional meetings might set rules for ship encounters, air travel behavior, or technology cooperation. It would not be perfect, and the risk of conflict would always be there. However, both sides would avoid crossing the line that would start an open war. 8. What it means for us. China's actions in the Pacific are changing how power works there. This is important for everyone, not just for government leaders or military officers. These changes affect our daily lives in many ways. Think about things you use every day: your phone, clothes, or food. Many of these items travel through the Pacific Ocean. More tension in these waters can make trade routes harder to use. This can make prices go up for goods we buy. It can also make supply chains slower, meaning things take longer to arrive. Even your online shows or websites can be affected. The Internet uses special cables under the sea. Many of these vital cables are in the same areas where China is increasing its military presence. This situation is like a quiet battle for influence. It is not always fought with guns, but with a growing presence. When a big military power is always operating near another country, it changes how those countries talk to each other. It shapes their relationships and how they make important decisions. This is happening now, slowly changing our world without us always noticing. Geopolitics is not far away. It quietly affects our lives every day. The outcomes of these ongoing changes will affect us all. Which of the 3 future scenarios do you think is most likely to happen, and why?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.